like you see every day. So it all comes down to what happened after the ball snap. And I know us. I know who we are. I know what you have built. Don't you back down! You got me? Yes, because that name on the front of your chest represents the Southern Conference champions in 2015. That's who you are.
His football team.
And that's the guy, modern day, that was raising hell in the locker room back in November of 2015. It's Mike Houston, Citadel head coach 2014-2015, our special guest here on this week's Citadel GrayLine. Coach, welcome into the show, and great to have you.
I appreciate you guys having me on. A lot of great memories from that locker room.
Yes, and I'm sure you can give a rousing speech like that right now if you needed to, so feel free.
Well, in the right setting, no doubt. But I just, as soon as I saw that clip, it brought back so many memories of so many great kids and coaches, and what an incredible time, in my career, my family's life during our time there at the Citadel. It was short. Didn't plan it that way, but it was certainly a period of time that we still have fond memories about.
And all of us Citadel fans and friends and those who support the Dogs have very fond memories of that special era, 2014-2015, where you were the head coach. And that clip there was from the 23-22 victory over the South Carolina Gamecocks. We've got more pictures, more scenes of that special 2015 season, and we're going to share with all of y'all here as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of that SoCon championship team with Mike Houston. John Rawl, great to have you here on this show, powered in part by IPS Packaging and Automation. Andrew Miller with the Charleston Post and Courier is with us as well, and Thomas Scruggs. We're going to talk about the good old days with Coach Houston. We also have to bring you up to speed with the modern Citadel football team. Maurice Drayton was the defensive coordinator on that 2015 SoCon championship team, and his team struggling here at the end of the season as they lose this past weekend to Wofford. They've got the finale at ETSU this coming weekend that we will discuss. Andrew Miller is the Charleston Post and Courier scribe, and he covers the Dogs. Andrew, hello and welcome to you, sir.
Thank you for having me, John, as always. It's been, a tough week for a lot of Citadel fans, or at least tough weekend after that loss to Wofford, a game they had several chances to win. And I know that I touched on a little bit in my Tuesday write-up from the press conference on Monday with Maurice Drayton, head coach, but that ball never went over the goal line in the fourth quarter. That Wofford running back, he never got the ball over the goal line, and I know that's something that really kind of upset Coach Drayton. But as he said at the press conference, that one call did not beat them. They had multiple opportunities to win that game, so disappointing outcome for that for sure.
Yes, it was. Thomas Scruggs was at Johnson Haygood this past weekend celebrating his 30th class reunion, and his lovely Wofford alumni was right by his side. Hopefully the weekend was partially good for you.
Have to experience another embarrassing defeat to her alma mater with her by my side. What a great weekend it was in Charleston. We started on Thursday. Unfortunately, we had to witness that football game on Saturday. So very, very disappointing to be limping it across the finish line here at the end of the season. Just really can't fathom why we couldn't score more than 14 points against Wofford. I know they've been playing well. Go for it. We have it at the 4. You kick a field goal there, and you potentially win the game. So I don't know. They don't pay me to coach. I'm just a sideline QB.
That is correct, and thank goodness for that here, Thomas. If you want to be a part of our show, 843-779-8496 is the magic way to get involved. If you've got a question or comment for any of us three stooges, feel free. If you've got a question or comment for Coach Mike Houston, who is not a stooge, he is welcome. You're welcome to ask. 843-779-8496. We'll find out about what Coach Houston is doing now. Believe it or not, he's been prepping for a SoCon opponent. We'll tell you about that as we move along with today's show. Want to let you know that one of our great sponsors here is Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. They do great work in the Columbia area. And Thomas, I know you happen to live in 803. Has there been a time where you've needed a call on Franklin Plumbing?
Unfortunately, several times, John.
I
we live
figured
in an
so.
old house.
Yeah, old
So
houses need tender loving care.
That's right. That's right.
Go to franklinplumbing.sc right now.com and check it out. They've got a full-service plumbing, gas, drain, and sewer company in Columbia. Expert service available 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, and a $250 off sewer replacement coupon available if you go to Franklin Plumbing today. It's a wonderful company, Citadel-led. Also, Citadel-led is IPS packaging and automation. You know, since the 1970s, they've been a powerhouse in the industry. With all these decades, they stand tall as a leader in the packaging products, automation equipment, and top-notch service industry. They play a great role in all kinds of businesses throughout the country, and they have a great support of Citadel athletic programs through the many years, with over 10 years, in fact, of supporting LCID. Discover what IPS packaging and automation can do for you. Go to the website ipack.com. 800-277-7007 is the telephone number. Again, that website, ipack.com. It's IPAC, IPS packaging and automation. They will do you right if you are in need of any kind of packaging product for your industry that you might be working in. All right, Coach Houston, I know we need to tell people what you're doing now. You're at Clemson. You are a volunteer defensive analyst, I guess is the term. And so we know you have to be careful on what you might say about other teams. But if you need to plead the fifth and stay quiet, that's fine. If you want to say something about the modern team, we welcome anything. But we want to wrap up the 2025 Bulldog talk before we go back to 2015. Hopefully you understand that.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So Maurice Drayton, he was with you there at the Citadel back in your time. And I know you probably kind of have kept up with the Dogs through the years. Your thoughts?
Oh, well, I always keep up with the scores each weekend. And, my wife, Amanda, and I and our families have remained close with many Citadel alum. And we make it down. We have a place down in Charleston still. So we make it down quite often and to catch up with everybody. So certainly, we always check on the Bulldogs each weekend. And Mo, did a good job for us when I was there, and it was important to me when I was hired that I try to have some guys that had some knowledge of the institution with me since I was new, and Maurice did a great job of helping me understand everything with the school itself. Football stuff I could handle, but the Citadel's a special place, and it's not like everywhere else. And you have to understand, kind of how things work on campus, with the core and the relationship there, and be able to function within those, just structure. And so, he was invaluable when it came to all that. So we always keep up with the Bulldogs, and I hate that. I know that there was a lot of progress shown last year. From the previous season, and I know that there are high expectations this year to continue to see that progress. And so I know that as you guys mentioned before, I'm sure Coach Drayton and everyone they're disappointed that they haven't seen quite the progress that they've had. But hey, on to the next one. Tough loss against Wofford, but you move on to ETSU, and I know that'll be a challenge going over to Johnson City, but obviously a very winnable game for them from everything I've seen. I have been looking at a lot of SoCon film this week. I watched the Furman Citadel ball game earlier this week, and saw ETSU on film as well. And so I think they should match up pretty well against them.
Coach, one thing I wanted to ask you about, it really isn't necessarily your time at the Citadel with Coach Drayton, but just in the way that coaching works. You're a guy with more of a defensive background, correct?
Correct.
And so you were the head coach at the Citadel, but Maurice was the defensive coordinator. So
right.
do you jump in there, not just at Citadel, but during your times at JMU, East Carolina? Do you weigh in during the game on defense? I mean, how does that work out?
Yeah, probably pretty significantly when I was at the Citadel. We kind of all did it together, staff wise, on the defensive side of the ball when I was there. Mo was primarily the play caller my second year, and did a good job, but there was a lot of involvement, and it's kind of dependent on where I was and what my staff looked like. I had a veteran guy at JMU, and so Although I was still involved, he was the lead there at East Carolina. It was a pretty significant rebuild, and so it was kind of all hands on deck in all areas there. But I've always enjoyed trying to keep my hands involved in the nuts and bolts of programs that I've ran, and so that's what's been pretty enjoyable about this experience here at Clemson is I'm working primarily with the defense and special teams, and so it's allowed me to really dive deep back into scheme and fundamentals and technique and game planning, and so it's been kind of therapeutic for me to get really down in the nitty gritty here this fall.
Great. I was thinking when you got hired at Clemson, maybe they were thinking about switching to the triple option.
No, I don't think there's any chance of that. Although I'll tell you what, in today's crazy landscape of college football, I do think that offense or some variation of it could thrive in certain conferences.
Yes, sir. Fellows, ask away.
Coach, do you think even with the new blocking rules, you can't block below the waist on the perimeter, stuff like that, do you still think that the triple option would be effective?
Well, I think some variation. I think everything evolves, but you look at the success that Georgia Tech is having right now. We played them earlier in the year. You look at the success that Navy is having. Of course, I faced them regular year in and year out at East Carolina. Army, I faced last year at East Carolina. I think the success that you see those teams having is because they are a little bit different. I think if you sit here and do, what everybody else does, you'd better have the most money. And that's the way college football is playing out. And if you're not one of the schools that have, the most rev share or whatever it is to have the very best players in your league or at your level, then you better be doing something different, especially on offense. I think that's where it matters more. Defensively, I think you can be pretty. I think you can do a lot of different things defensively a little bit easier than you can offensively. Offensively, I think you've got to have an identity that gives you an advantage. And so whether it's the triple option or, the last my last season at ECU, I put in the Ole Miss offense, which they're thriving with that system now. I think that's another one that gives you an advantage because it's different. I just think that thought process really is what you need if you're a school that's one that has to do more with less, so to speak.
Thomas, you got one? I got another question.
Yeah, I've got one, Coach. Do you think here in 2025 that the Citadel can recruit the type of athlete necessary to run the triple option? Can we be competitive, in your opinion?
Oh, I think there's no doubt the Citadel can be competitive. I don't think you necessarily have to run what we ran back in 2014, 2015 that Brent continued to run in 16 and 17. I think you could, and I think you could be very competitive running that offense. But I think you could do some other things too. I think you just have to look at, again, the Citadel's a special place. It's not like everybody else. And so I think that you have to take that approach when you're figuring out what your philosophy is going to be. You're going to attract certain types of young men to that institution, and those young men are going to have certain traits that you can cultivate. I mean, I feel like that's what we did back in 14 and 15 that they carried on after I left. Yes, we were a triple option offense, but the thing that a lot of people forget is we were probably the most physical, disciplined defense, definitely in the SoCon. I talked to Tom Allen, our defense coordinator here at Clemson, about just some of the traits that our defenses had there, and I think that is maybe the most physical, hard nosed group of young men that I've had anywhere I've been. And so I think that you take the fact that you can recruit those type of individuals to that institution, and then you decide what you're going to do schematically in all three phases based on that. But I think, in my opinion, and I had a great experience at the Citadel, so certainly my lens comes from that perspective. I think that you can be successful there. You just have to do things a little bit different.
Well,
Coach, I think we all saw your your the pregame speech at South Carolina. I'm just curious. Now you've been on the other end of that. Maybe at East Carolina playing an FCS team.
Yeah.
Now at Clemson, getting ready for Furman here. How is the messaging different when you're on that side, when you're Goliath instead of the David? And then which role did you kind of embrace and relish more than the other?
Well, I mean, I think whether you're talking about, the Citadel going into Williams-Brice, or James Madison going into North Dakota State in 16, or James Madison going into East Carolina in 17. I've always enjoyed being kind of the underdog, and the one that wasn't supposed to be able to get the job done, and kind of relished in that. I can tell you, when I was at East Carolina, I warned my teams every year when we got in those situations, and I would use those games as examples, and have done the same thing here this week in what role I have, of just cautioning everyone that you'd better be ready to play your best against a team like, we're facing Furman this week, because I feel like you're going to get Furman's best shot. And a lot of those guys, they see the opportunity to play, a team on this stage, and they're going to play maybe above, where they have previously during the season. But some of the greatest memories that I have, and biggest wins that I've had and been fortunate to be a part of in my career, have been the Citadel at South Carolina type situations. So I really enjoy those matchups.
And let's not forget Coach Houston, prior to the Citadel, had a great run at Lenore-Rhine. At the Citadel, won the SoCon championship in 2015, and then at JMU won a national championship. Not bad.
I've been blessed. No
Yes,
doubt.
sir. And your East Carolina program was just kind of, you went through, were you at ECU during COVID?
Yeah, it was. I'll tell you, that was a hard
disaster.
rebuild.
Yeah,
Well,
kidding.
we got it going. We got it going and went to back-to-back bowl games, and all the chaos of transfer portal and NIL and everything hit, and we had a bad year in 23, and then we rebuilt it in 24. I didn't survive the complete rebuild, and but the players and coaches that I had, they continued on the tail end of last year and have continued on this year, and I had the right people there and the right players there, and they've been able to continue on what we were doing, and so it was a hard rebuild in 19 and 20, but it's turned out positive on this side of it, and it's a very stable situation, as stable as you can be at the Group of Five, I think, right now. So happy for those families and coaches and players that are there.
Yes, sir. And my comment was more about COVID, the fact that you're having to, first of all, come in and rebuild, and then nobody in the world's had to do what you had to do, and all your fellow coaches in 2020 and 21.
It was, I don't want to go through it again. I know that. That was a disaster.
That's the word I use.
I think for everyone. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Mike Houston, our guest here on Citadel GrayLine. Andrew, before we go back to 10 years ago with Coach Houston, anything we need to learn about the Citadel football team? We had some big news off the field in the last few days with the Citadel deciding to opt into this NCAA thing. So, what's going on?
Yeah, no, they opted into the settlement. They were not, VMI and the Citadel were the two Southern Conference schools that were not a part of the NCAA House settlement. They've opted in. I think in the long run, this will be a good thing for the Citadel, as long as they have planned and they have some kind of vision for what they're going to be post House settlement. And that means roster sizes, revenue sharing, all that stuff. And I don't know that the administration has a plan yet, but I think it was a good move for them to move into it. I have one last question for Coach Houston. I'm just curious about this and getting a head football coach's opinion on this. This is kind of a little bit off subject, but we have the FCS playoffs. Obviously, we have the FBS playoffs. To me, I think eventually what's going to happen is the Power Four schools are kind of going to break off into their own kind of entity, where it'll be the top 60, 64 schools from across the country that will kind of form their own big, whatever you want, NFL-esque Power Five, Power Four football. What's going to happen to the group of 5 conferences, in your opinion? And will they have a kind of a similar playoff to the FCS if that comes to fruition when the top 60 programs kind of break off? Or what do you think is going to happen, I guess?
Well, I think you're dead on. I think that's exactly what's going to happen, and I think you'll probably see that. I would think within the next 5 years, and I think you're going to see, the rev share things. I think you're going to see that continue to progress more towards an NFL model. I think you're probably going to see contracts and collective bargaining, and I just think it's really going to, push towards more of a pro model with the top schools, and I think it's going to all be, you know, revenue money driven. I think that I think there'll be a couple of group of 5 schools that may get pulled up. I think there'll be some power 4 schools that may drop down.
Yeah.
But I think that next tier is going to become very much what we all knew, 10 years ago as FCS. And I think it'll be a very similar situation where you'll have that top tier, then you'll have the group of 5 or whatever you want to call them. What's going to happen to FCS? I don't know. Maybe there's some teams that will, move up to join that second tier. And there'll be others that will stay, where they are. But I think it's all going to, kind of even out. I hope I hope that someone, and you hope it's the NCAA, but I don't know, gives some guidelines and some structure and some regulation to all the chaos. Because in a place like the Citadel, I think that's what's needed within the sport in order for that institution to truly have sustained success. A situation where you recruit and develop young men on the field. We all know what the Citadel as an institution does for those young men off the field. But when they're leaving after 2 years, it really can cripple you, and I think that's one of the issues there. But I think that's across the country. So not to get too deep into that stuff, but I think Andrew, I think you're dead on. I think that's what's coming, and I think everybody at this level that I'm currently at knows it.
All right. Andrew, let's get a quick thought about ETSU before we wind the clock back a decade. What does the Citadel need to do to come away with a W in Johnson City?
Well, one thing that they obviously have done all year long is they've played pretty well on the road in Southern Conference games, wins over Sanford, wins over Chattanooga. So I think maybe playing away from Johnson Haygood might actually help them this week. Obviously, ETSU coming off a huge win over Western Carolina. And after I saw the Western Carolina quarterback play, I wasn't sure they were going to lose again. I thought the only team that had a chance to beat them was Mercer, and then Mercer did. Although if you watch that game, it was a great game. If you haven't watched it, even if you're not a Mercer or a Western Carolina fan, it was just a great football game to watch. Especially now, Mike Houston would not like it because there was a whole lot of offense and not a whole lot of defense. But Western Carolina had a chance to win that game. But it's a pretty convincing win from ETSU. So again, you got to keep the ball away from their offense. You got to control the clock, and you got to convert. You got to convert in the red zone, and you got to finish offensive drives with points, especially touchdowns instead of field goals. And I'm kind of with you, John. I thought that Mo should have gone for it 4th and 4. In the first half, should have kicked the field goal there. And if he kicks the field goal there, maybe that's a win for the Citadel, because you only needed 3 points to beat these guys.
Yep. All the points matter in a SoCon clash like we saw this past weekend. It's the Citadel and ETSU from Johnson City. It is the final game for the Citadel in 2025. Hood Construction helps build the Citadel GrayLine each and every week, and we want to let everybody know about that. Don't know why that thing's there. Go away. There you go. Thank you. And we'll mute Thomas there, who works for Hood Construction. Maybe the boss is calling him right now. Build it the right way. For 39 years, Hood Construction's been doing just that with a full-service construction management company with locations and work in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. Go to the website, hoodconstruction.com, and you'll see projects they got going on, like the Gateway 737 Idea Center in Columbia, and in North Augusta, the North Augusta Public Safety Headquarters they built. Thomas is working on a big project in Charleston at the college there, And they also have something going with the USC Brain Health Center in the capital city. Hoodconstruction.com, Citadel-led company, do a great job, and we are glad to have them as part of Citadel GrayLine. All right. This is kind of like the old show that came on back in the 1960s where they flash back and bring back all kind of memories. Mike Houston is our special guest on today's Citadel GrayLine. Coach Houston, are you ready for some more video from 10 years ago?
That'd be great.
All right.
Be a welcomed highlight to the day.
All right. Well, let's pull up. Citadel's got the whole thing on YouTube. If you want to check it out, it's the 2015 highlights. I've only got a couple of minutes of this. Some of it has sound, some of it doesn't. So just bear with us as we go back in time. And Coach Houston, feel free to do any kind of thoughts that you see on these video, okay? So here we go. I believe that's Renew there in the background. There you go. Touchdown Dogs.
Well, that was certainly a memorable day. The Wofford game.
Touchdown! Bulldogs lined up to go for 2. This should make it a 24-point lead. Pass.
Great win over Wofford on this day. Dominic Allen, the quarterback.
You know, the year before we had lost on the last play of the game up there in Spartanburg. Aaron Miller.
This was the most beautiful play of your career there. This incredible run in the first half against the Gamecocks. Look how beautiful that is.
Oh, yeah. Cam Jackson. We were talking on the headset, and Brent saw what South Carolina was in, and he called it, before the ball was ever snapped, what was getting ready to happen.
Amazing day. 10 years ago, I think this week, or pretty close to it.
Yeah.
That defense came to show up as well. Great players there.
We had planned on, that whole game plan revolved around not letting them run the football, trying to make Perry Orth beat us. And he and the guy named Debo Samuel and then Pharaoh Cooper, they about did.
How about your kicker Goins there, I believe, with the tackle on the
Well, what a end of the year he had.
Yes, sir.
The kick in this game, the career long in this game, and then the following week, a career long in the Coastal game to win it.
Yes, sir. Tyler Renew up the gut.
How about them Bulldogs?
That's what it's all about right there, the thrill of victory. And a 23-22 victory November of 2015. There are the accomplishments your team pulled off that season. You went on and upset, I think you did, because they were the host seed Coastal Carolina the following week. Unfortunately lost to Charleston Southern after that. But all in all, an incredible 2015. And that came after a good 2014 season. Your debut at the Citadel, where I think we had maybe a 5-6 record, something like that.
Yeah. Should have beat Sanford at home. That was certain games you remember. I mean, that game haunts you. In 2014, they were ranked in the top 10 or so in the country, and they came to Johnson Haygood, and we led the whole game, and they scored about 20 seconds left to beat us, and that was the difference in a winning season there in 2014. But certainly 2015 was and is a memorable year for us. And the thing is, we didn't really expect that kind of year. We knew we were going to be pretty good, but we were very, very young. We really expected 2016 to be the year where we had a chance to really, make a huge improvement. But we got hot. Certainly, Dom Allen playing as well as he did that early in his career was a big piece of it. Tyler Renew, we knew was going to be solid, but he came along and played, really well there. But then, talking defensively, Mitch Jeter, who, was taken from us all way too soon. But, Mitch Jeter, having the season that he had, and just so many other kids that just stepped up there in 2015 and gave us the opportunity to really get the ball rolling. And you saw the clips from the Wofford game. I really think the Wofford game was the one that really, got the season pushed towards what it ended up being, because, the 2014 game, like I said, we lost on the last play of the game. Aaron Miller, quarterback draw, lands on the stripe I heard your comments, Andrew, about the play there this past weekend. The call didn't go our way in Spartanburg that year either. I mean, there's a photo from the Post and Courier of the ball on Aaron's chest, and he's laying on the goal line. And that's, you break the plane, it's supposed to be a touchdown. And so we didn't get the call there in Spartanburg, and lost that heartbreaker. And then you turn around the next year in Charleston, and we had 2 weeks to get ready. And so, we had a great defensive plan, and then the kids just came out and played with just an incredible amount of energy and intensity, and blew out a very good Mike Ayers team there and Johnson Haygood. And I just remember after the game, I think that was probably the first big win for us there at the Citadel. Uh, I told my wife, I said, send the kids on with your parents, because the boys were really young then. And I said, we're going to enjoy this one. And so I remember walking, we literally walked back through the tailgate and all the way down Johnson Haygood, visiting with all the fans and alums that we had began to form strong relationships with, to just enjoy. I don't know when the last time they'd beaten Wofford was, when we beat them. It'd been 20 years or so. And so I just remember enjoying that day, and the post game celebration of all the Citadel alums.
A great win for sure. Then I went to your game in Chattanooga that season where you lost, heartbreaking
Oh,
lost. And
first play of the game, double pass. I still
yeah,
remember it.
yes, sir. So you follow the Chattanooga up with this game and some more scenes from November of 2015 that I've got some pictures here. First of all, who can forget the big long run and the incredible ground game that Tyler Renew had that day?
And what a great story. Growing up in Columbia, I think worked in Williams-Brice for home games. Wanted to go to South Carolina, didn't get the opportunity. Ended up coming to the Citadel. But that long run, now that was a check at the line of scrimmage. So we had another play called, and South Carolina jumped in a bear front, and Dom checked the play there for Tyler to run the ball off tackle, and our guys, fitted up perfectly, and Tyler, hit the crease and was gone. So certainly one of the huge moments in that ball game.
It was great offense. Of course, we got a credit. A lot of that goes to players, including, I love this picture here, a guy that went from being one of your great offensive linemen to the host of this show for a while, and that would be number 57, but number one in your heart, Kyle Weaver there, mouthing it up with one of the Gamecocks.
Kyle was a great one. I saw him about a year or so ago. He came to Greenville for work, and got to catch up with him. But certainly he was one of the great leaders up front. Tough guy, really, really smart, but just tough and gritty. He was of course involved in that big run.
He was, and then again, one of his classmates, and I believe maybe roommate, was a guy who went on from this 2-year span or couple year span with Citadel football to write a book about it, and that was Joe Crochet.
Yeah, Joe's, I think, still in Atlanta. I hear from him from time to time, he talked to me some when he was preparing the book. But another guy that have great memories of. He played our boundary hybrid, outside linebacker, defensive end type guy, and was just he's just a tough, hard nosed guy too. I was talking just about what kind of defense we had. He was kind of the embodiment of that. He embodied that, and just all those characteristics and traits. But no shock that those guys are now having highly successful careers, post graduation from the Citadel.
Yes, sir.
They were great players on the field, but they were going to be successes in life because of who they were.
And Andrew, if this won't upset you, I'm going to pull this up. This is the scoreboard there, 23-22. Citadel wins. Team out there celebrating on the field. And walking off the field this day was this guy right here. Great picture from Williams-Brice Stadium. Coach, I have to ask you, you introduced a new color scheme to Citadel athletics during your time. You always wore black. What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, I wasn't wearing it that day, so it's probably
That
maybe
wasn't a
shouldn't
black
shouldn't have
hat?
worn it more often. No, well, it'd be a black hat, but I wore a black shirt a lot.
Yes, sir.
Usually, it started was when you're home and away, your coaches wear the opposite color of the what your team's wearing. So if you're at home and you're wearing a dark colored jersey, the coaches are usually in a white. And so but when I first got to the Citadel, I was still calling the defense from the field. And so a lot of times I wanted to make sure that they could find me on the sideline. And so I would wear a shirt that was different from what the coaching staff wore. And so that's where it came in, started wearing a black shirt. And that actually started at Lenore Rhine, where I served as defense coordinator and head coach, both there. It was just trying to be a color that the kids could find on the sideline. Then we started winning. And so then it became a little bit also good luck. But yeah, that's kind of I carried that with me, for a while. I still wore some black at the ECU also.
Well, they like black there, but the Citadel really hadn't been much of a black colored program with their apparel. But hey, it was a winning look. So kudos on that. Mike Houston, our guest here, as we're wrapping up here the next couple minutes with him. You again did something that rarely happens. I believe Art Baker might have been the last coach to actually choose to move on to the Citadel to another head coaching job. And that's what happened with you in 2015. You did a great job. You impressed people throughout the country with your work. And as a result, you got a chance to move on up. And we certainly understand that.
Well, it was, like I said at the beginning, it wasn't anything that we were looking to do, and just very blessed to have had the opportunity. But certainly it was hard to leave, and didn't plan on leaving that quickly. But I do think that the foundation that we were able to lay in 14 and 15. Brent Thompson was able to carry on very successfully, and there were some great seasons after I left that I remain very connected to Brent even to this day, and just happy to see that time for Citadel football that I was fortunate enough to be a small part of. But like I said, we have great memories, and we still have great friends from our times there in Charleston and with the Citadel. And you showed a picture of me coming off the field, which you couldn't see was I don't know, he was maybe 4 at the time. My oldest son, Owen. Owen's bigger than me now. He's like 6'2". He's a 16-year-old. He's behind the trooper right here to my right.
Okay.
And then there's another picture from that locker room that someone sent to me recently of a young Mikey Rosa in the locker room next to me, during the celebration. And certainly I was excited to watch number 45 on film this past week. I've remained close with the Rosas, and certainly they've been through a tragic incident there that has really shook their family, but they've survived it, and they're thriving, and just so happy for Mikey, just seeing the success he's having at the Citadel, and really enjoyed watching his film this week as we prepared for Furman.
Sounds good. Gentlemen, any questions for Coach Houston before we get out of here?
I said I got one if Thomas doesn't.
Go for it, Andrew.
Well, Coach, what is your philosophy on offensive and defensive coordinators in the booth, on the field? What do you prefer, and what's the advantages of each one? Like having your coordinator on the field as opposed to having them in the press box.
I think there's pluses and minuses to both. For me, when I was a coordinator, I liked being in the box from a standpoint of being able to see everything, and I could make adjustments based on what I saw with my own eyes. I think the advantage of being on the field is you're really plugged into the players playing in the game, and you're able to talk to them face to face, look them in the eye. I think you got to be careful not being too emotionally plugged into the game, but you are able to emotionally be a part of what's going on the field. But if you are on the field, you have to have somebody in the box that is very, very good and very capable and can be your eyes. And so that's kind of the trade-offs. So I don't think there's necessarily a right or a wrong answer to that. I think it depends on your staff and your coordinators. Where do they feel most comfortable, and do they have the support? If they're on the field, do they have the support in the box to be able to help them see the things they need to see? And I think the iPads and stuff. I don't know how much you guys are using that in the SoCon level. I would anticipate you're using
They
it
do.
some, but
They do use it.
do they? Okay. I think
Yeah.
that changes things a little bit now because you can see things the way they actually are between series. And as long as you have somebody talking to you in series that sees the stuff live, so you don't end up, getting taken advantage of too much during a series, I think it makes it easier to be on the sideline to call the game now.
If you had the in-helmet communication back then, and you're the defensive coordinator at the Citadel, what are you saying to your? I'm assuming it'll be one of your linebackers. That's the
Right.
guy you're communicating with the most. What are you saying to him pre-snap?
Well, I think the biggest thing you can do is help him get the front set, get any early picture checks with, whether it be stunts or coverage adjustments or whatever, because the linebacker really has to talk to both. Talking to him, just making sure things are set pre-snap correctly are the biggest things. You got to be careful, what you tell them. You don't tell them too much. You start telling them to watch this or watch that or whatever, and you'll have them playing a play before the ball's ever snapped. What we try to do is we try to give our players picture pages of tendencies and have them, learn those throughout the week, so that when they see the stuff pre-snap, they see the tendencies already, but they still got to play the play. You can't go chase ghosts. So I think the biggest thing you'd be talking to them about is just making sure your checks and adjustments based on the call coming in are correct, from a communication standpoint.
And my last one is, how much time on the play clock would you allow yourself to make an audible change defensively? Like,
Well, it cuts off 15 seconds before
but from the
play clock
sideline,
goes
you
dead.
could still signal in an audible from the sideline. I'm assuming after the 15 seconds is up, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on your system. I mean, there's, you watch Coach Venables at Oklahoma now. He's going to signal in something right before the ball snapped. And it completely depends on what your defensive philosophy and what you're running, what you're doing. And I do think there's value to seeing the formation before you signal the call in. And I think the flip side of that is you got to give the players time enough to get the call and get lined up and get adjusted and get ready for the ball to be snapped. I don't know why you're asking that question. You obviously have an angle you're coming from, but
Nope.
it's a fine line, and I've treaded that fine line throughout my career. I don't know that I would be a guy that's sent it in quite as late as Coach Venables does. I watch a lot of college football. I think he's kind of got a knack for it, but he is close to being too late. But I do like being able to see the formation because calling off personnel anymore, people get in 12 personnel and they'll get in 10 sets, or they'll be in all these different things out of 11 personnel. That it really helps you be able to get the right call for what you think is coming.
That's it for me.
Well, Andrew, I don't know about you, but I feel a lot smarter after having
know.
Coach Houston.
Always.
I'm gonna record this, and I'm gonna memorize all these words, and I'm gonna go to the sports bar this weekend and blow everybody away with my knowledge, especially Clemson versus Furman.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you see a big win for the Tigers in that one. That would be good to get win number 6 and bowl eligibility. Certainly it's not been the season we all thought was coming here, but all things happen for a reason. But need to get that big win at home this weekend, and obviously have a big matchup down in Williams-Brice next weekend.
Yes, sir. And I do believe the Citadel is on Clemson's upcoming schedule in another 2 or 3 years, I think. Have you heard that?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the future schedules here at Clemson. So, and who knows where God's got it planned for the family and I to be.
Yes, sir.
But I don't think I'm going to be a head coach yet. I don't know that I'm in a huge hurry to jump back in just this second, but we'll see where I am in a year or so.
I mean, honestly, the world of life is crazy, Coach. We all know that. But I mean, just look
Right.
at what a couple of places you've been. What's happened since you left, and it's going to happen to you too if the Lord wants it to happen. But you know what's happened with ECU? They've got to a bowl last year, and then Signetti came into JMU after you left to go to
Yep.
ECU, and now he's like the hottest coach in football.
Right. I remember he called me the week after I'd left, and he was interviewing for the job, and he said, "Tell me about the roster at James Madison." And this was before you could just take all your players with you. And I said, "Kurt," I said, "that is the best roster in FCS football." I said, "Don't overthink this." I said, "You'll win a national championship there." And he about did. I think he went to the championship game the next year. But certainly this is a sport where in the coaching side of it, you kind of you hit things at certain times, and certainly I had that opportunity in a couple of different places, and so hopefully I'll get that opportunity to hit the right place at the right time again. But for me, I just have such great memories of the young men that I've been blessed to be around and having my programs. And it's great to be able to hear a couple of names today. And like I told Andrew, I saw the video from this past weekend of the team back in Charleston, and those faces brought back so many great memories and times together. So it's certainly a blessing having the opportunity to do what I do for a living.
Well, from Franklin, North Carolina to Charleston to Harrisonburg, Virginia to Greenville, North Carolina to Clemson now, Coach, we're very happy that you can always include your time at the Citadel as part of your resume. And there always is going to be a 2015 SoCon champion sign in the end zone there at Johnson Haygood Stadium.
Well, I wore my Citadel blue for this video today, and we'll be back down in Charleston probably after the holidays and the bowl game. So look forward to catching up with some Citadel alums here this winter.
Well, we're big fans of you, sir. Andrew, did you have something?
Yeah, I got one more. I talked to a head coach who moved on for lack of who did not get his contract renewed, and he went and he did something similar to what you're doing now, Coach. And he said that he did that for 2 years. Now he's a head coach again. Again, I'm not gonna say who he was, but he actually told me that he enjoyed those 2 years doing kind of what you're doing because he was able to immerse himself again in football and schematics, and he didn't have to worry about all the other stuff that went along with being a head coach. I'm wondering if you're getting that same kind of feeling this year too, that just being, in your own little bubble, defensive analyst, if there's some way, that's some ways not more enjoyable than being the head coach because you're just dealing with the kids and just dealing with the schemes and everything like that. What's your opinion on that?
I think yes and no. I think this has been therapeutic for me. I told Coach Sweeney that here a couple of weeks ago, and I've really enjoyed it. And I have enjoyed getting back into the schematics of just what people are doing defensively right now in the game. But I miss being able to fix things, especially in a season like we've had here at Clemson. Being the head coach, you have it's your job to fix everything. It's your job to make adjustments and make changes, and I miss that. I also miss just the interactions I had with the men as the head coach, with the players, and this has shown me that I definitely want to be a head coach again in the future at the right spot at the right opportunity. And so I don't know who you talked to if that helped them, but this has certainly helped me come to that realization that it's what God's called me to do. And I think being able to see how Coach Sweeney does things here has been very beneficial for me. And being able to learn how they're doing their rev share stuff is going to help me prepare for what's next. And so I've been blessed to have this opportunity, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can on a daily basis with it. But for me, it's been therapy as much as anything.
Yeah.
And it's your first time really in a Power 4 program in this modern era too. So
yeah, that's the reason I wanted to. This is the only phone call I made. I'd known Coach for a while, and I'm blessed that he allowed me to come here and do this. But that's the reason I wanted to do it here, was to get the experience at this level, because of, especially with the new rules and the rev share stuff. And I wanted to make sure that I was prepared, no matter where I end up, that I was prepared for just how that's all going to work.
Well, maybe, just maybe, somebody out there, some athletic director, is going to find this podcast and they're going to see this clip right here. And let me tell you, I'll be a reference for you. This guy knows how to coach. In fact, at the end of the 2014 season, one of our great sponsors, you see across the top there, IPS Packaging and Automation, Derek Murdoch was our guest. And he was our last guest of 2014. And he told our audience that he was fired up about Citadel football because of you, Coach Houston, because you know what? I hate to sort of curse here. He said you brought piss and vinegar to Citadel football.
Well,
that's what he said.
I guess I probably owe him a little bit for 2015 then. And, if this podcast helps me get a shot at the right opportunity, I'll definitely owe you guys. Maybe I'll need to be some kind of title sponsor or whatever they allow
You
me
should
to be.
You absolutely should be. Absolutely. Coach, thank you. We know you're a busy guy, and we appreciate you taking time to come on this week's Citadel GrayLine. Good luck with you and the Clemson football team the rest of the 2025 season. And we're going to put a notice out in the Low Country to be on the lookout for the Houston family as soon as the season wraps.
Absolutely. Really appreciate you guys having me on. It's great to catch up. Best of luck this weekend in Johnson City.
Yes,
Take
sir.
care. Go Bulldogs.
All right, Coach Mike Houston. Andrew, you have a great rest of your week, and we'll be looking for your coverage in the Post and Courier, postandcourier.com.
Thank you, and I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving next week because,
Yep, we got that coming on. But we have one more show before we get out of here for the year. So tune in for our final episode of 2025 next week. Until then, thanks again to Coach Houston. Thomas Scruggs had to sign off. Andrew, thank you. And thank all of y'all again. The podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart app, and as well as on YouTube. You can watch it, and on our Facebook page. John Rawl, thanking you for being a part of Citadel GrayLine. We'll see y'all next week. Beat those ETSU Buccaneers.